Skid Row, a seemingly small place in the heart of Los Angeles, but one that most clearly exposes the deep cracks in American society. On that little more than half a square mile of land, every night, some 4,000 people live without a home, without a bed, without a clear future. These are not cold numbers in a report, but real people trying to survive amid makeshift tents, the darkness of addiction, mental illness, and systemic indifference. This is not just an urban problem, but a long-term tragedy that has become the norm. Can a wealthy city like Los Angeles be proud to let thousands of people sleep outdoors every night? Why can't millions of public dollars be used to provide shelter for the poor? And does clearing the tent encampments solve the problem, or simply mask an uncomfortable truth? It's time to look at Skid Row, not with pity, but with awareness.
You know what I'm saying? And I'm living in my car right now with my dog. You know, it wasn't my fault. My roommate's, her check was late. Her Social Security check was late, and they evicted us, you know, and that wasn't right, you know what I'm saying?
That's what we're waiting on, a list. We're on a list. We're waiting for a bed to open up, a couple's shelter.
Skid Row, a cramped half-square mile in Los Angeles, embodies a crisis that's as heart-wrenching as it is urgent. Often likened to a scene from a bygone era of despair, this neighborhood is where hope frays against a backdrop of sprawling tent encampments, piled-up trash, and pervasive disease. The Los Angeles Homeless Services Authority, LAHSA, estimates Skid Row houses thousands of homeless individuals, with most lacking any shelter, left vulnerable to the street's relentless dangers. The death toll here is staggering, driven by drug overdoses, particularly fentanyl and untreated chronic illnesses, far outpacing mortality rates in the broader population. Skid Row's residents reflect a diverse yet deeply disadvantaged group. Nearly half are over 50, a sharp rise from years past. And black individuals are overrepresented, highlighting stark racial disparities in the homeless population across America. Life on these streets is a grueling fight for survival. Residents battle infestations of rats and outbreaks of illnesses like typhus and hepatitis, compounded by the absence of basic sanitation. Many grapple with overlapping burdens, chronic mental health disorders, persistent physical ailments, and substance abuse, each feeding into the other, trapping them in a cycle of suffering. The conditions are not just harsh, but dehumanizing, stripping away dignity in a place where survival demands resilience. Skid Row stands as a glaring wound on Los Angeles' conscience, a place where the homeless in America are not mere numbers, but people with stories of struggle and endurance. The crisis here isn't just about poverty. It's about a system that has failed to protect its most vulnerable. What forces have collided to sustain this tragedy, and why does Skid Row remain an enduring scar on the city's landscape? Skid Row's homelessness crisis is a tangled web of economic hardship, social neglect, and policy missteps that have left thousands stranded in despair. At its heart lies an acute shortage of affordable housing. In Los Angeles, soaring rents have far outpaced incomes, with scarce options for low-income families to secure stable homes. Urban Institute, 2025, Sexton. Government programs like housing vouchers and financial aid are stretched thin, offering little protection against eviction. A single stroke of bad luck, a lost job, a medical bill, or a landlord's notice can catapult someone onto Skid Row's unforgiving streets. mental health struggles and addiction further fuel this tragedy. Many in Skid Row grapple with severe mental health conditions, like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder, yet access to treatment remains frustratingly out of reach. HUD, 2024. The opioid epidemic, driven by the deadly rise of fentanyl, has turned Skid Row into a battleground, with countless lives lost to overdoses each year. Trauma, whether from abuse, violence, or loss, haunts a majority of residents, pushing them toward drugs or alcohol as a desperate escape. Skid Row's environment only tightens this grip, with drug dealers preying on the vulnerable, trapping them in a brutal cycle where addiction and homelessness feed off each other. Failed policies have deepened the crisis. Decades ago, decisions to funnel homeless services into Skid Row transformed it into a catch-all for those with nowhere else to go. Later efforts, like a mid-2002 initiative to clean up the area, lean heavily on arrests rather than solutions, punishing people for their circumstances without addressing the root issues. More recently, a 2025 audit exposed staggering mismanagement, revealing that billions allocated to tackle homelessness in Los Angeles were spent without clear accountability. Los Angeles Times, 2025. This pattern of neglect and misguided priorities has cemented Skid Row as a place where hope often fades. These failures raise a pressing question. How has the drive for urban redevelopment worsened this crisis? And what role does gentrification play in reshaping Skid Row's future? Skid Row in the crosshairs, when development becomes displacement. Amid the gleaming revival of downtown Los Angeles, Skid Row has become ground zero in a battle between economic expansion and human survival. Once considered a last refuge for the city's most vulnerable, this tight-knit enclave is now under siege not by crime, but by cranes, condos, and coffee shops. As high-end developments flood the area, the cost of land skyrockets, and the people who once found safety and solidarity on these streets are being pushed to the margins. A 2023 report from Rock and Art warns that the soul of Skid Row is being eroded. The neighborhood's identity, long shaped by community resilience, grassroots support, and essential social services, is at risk of being flattened under the weight of rising property values. Today, luxury apartments cast long shadows over clusters of tents. The contrast is jarring, and it isn't accidental. Profit has become the priority, even if it means wiping away the last spaces where the poor can simply exist. This economic shift has also sparked a harsh crackdown in the name of urban renewal. Following a controversial 2024 Supreme Court decision that grants cities the authority to ban encampments without guaranteeing shelter alternatives, local enforcement has escalated dramatically. Police raids, euphemistically labeled urban polishing, are carried out with the intent to beautify the district, but they do little more than displace people already living on the edge. With no real housing options offered, these sweeps scatter residents across the city, stripping them of stability, support networks, and access to life-saving resources. Organizations like the Los Angeles Community Action Network LA CAN have condemned these tactics as cosmetic fixes that ignore the underlying causes of homelessness. By choosing aesthetics over dignity, the city risks turning a humanitarian crisis into a public relations campaign. And for the people of Skid Row, that choice isn't just insulting, it's dangerous. Gentrification doesn't stop at the curbside. It's now closing in on the very services that make Skid Row a lifeline for many. Shelters, clinics, and food pantries, some of which have operated here for decades, are now under threat as developers eye the land they sit on as valuable assets rather than community necessities. The Skid Row Development Corporation continues to fight for deeply affordable housing that can preserve the neighborhood's role as a sanctuary, but progress is painfully slow. Bureaucracy, political hesitancy, and financial interest often outweigh moral obligation. The deeper question remains, as downtown Los Angeles rebrands itself for the wealthy, what happens to the people who can't afford to leave and have nowhere else to go? Can Skid Row survive as a symbol of compassion and community, or will it be erased in the name of economic polish? The outcome will reveal more than the future of a neighborhood. It will show us who in this city is truly considered worth saving. Skid Row's homelessness crisis is a relentless storm, but a range of initiatives is battling to bring relief, though their impact often falls short of the desperate need. These efforts, from bold city programs to tireless nonprofits, aim to pull people from the streets, yet they grapple with systemic flaws that keep solutions just out of reach. Can these attempts truly break the cycle of despair, or are they merely stopgaps in a broken system? The Skid Row Action Plan pours significant funding into housing thousands by 2026, clearing encampments and securing homes for some. It's made progress, moving hundreds into temporary shelters, but only a small fraction find lasting stability. Mayor Karen Bass's Inside Safe initiative has shifted thousands from tents to hotel rooms, yet many slip back to the streets without permanent options. These programs spark hope, but stumble due to limited resources and follow-through, leaving too many exposed to Skid Row's harsh realities. Nonprofits are the heartbeat of change in this struggling neighborhood. Institutions like the Union Rescue Mission and Midnight Mission, with over a century of service, offer beds, meals, and job training, giving people a shot at rebuilding their lives. The Every Woman Housed initiative focuses on women and families, pairing housing with mental health support to break cycles of vulnerability. The Harm Reduction Health Hub confronts addiction head-on, distributing naloxone and providing treatment to curb overdoses. Smaller efforts, like the Sidewalk Project, reach those trapped in addiction or sex work, proving grassroots work can ignite change. These groups don't just provide aid, they fight to restore dignity where it's been eroded. Still, the path is fraught with challenges. The collapse of a key housing provider in 2023, undone by insufficient funding and mismanagement, raised alarms about the fragility of these efforts. Staff shortages and scarce mental health services hinder even the best programs, leaving critical needs unmet. Public frustration grows as resources seem to vanish without clear results, pointing to a dire need for better coordination and accountability. These aren't just logistical hurdles. They're a call to rethink how we approach this crisis. With progress so fragile, what will it take to forge a system that ends homelessness rather than just managing it? How can Skid Row's flickers of hope become a lasting light? To end the relentless cycle of hardship in Skid Row, we need a bold, cohesive plan that tackles immediate suffering while uprooting the systemic failures fueling this crisis. The path isn't easy, but it's achievable. A unified strategy rooted in compassionate action can transform this neighborhood from a symbol of abandonment into a model of renewal. Affordable housing must lead the charge. Stable homes paired with tailored support services offer a proven escape from homelessness. Expanding housing vouchers and emergency aid can stop families from spiraling onto Skid Row streets. Los Angeles must commit to building low-cost units right in this community, ensuring no one is pushed out by soaring prices. Without a relentless focus on housing, the crisis will only grow. Mental health and addiction services demand equal urgency. Skid Row's residents face untreated trauma and substance abuse worsened by the easy access to dangerous drugs. Scaling up harm reduction efforts, equipping people with life-saving tools like naloxone, and establishing round-the-clock crisis centers can provide immediate relief and pave the way for recovery. These services must be welcoming, free of judgment, and tailored to the unique struggles of this population. Healing is as vital as housing. Gentrification poses a direct threat to Skid Row's role as a haven for the vulnerable. As luxury developments creep closer, robust tenant protections and mandates for affordable units in new projects are critical to preserving this community's purpose. Supporting local efforts to create low-cost housing ensures Skid Row remains a sanctuary, not a victim of profit-driven urban overhaul. This fight for fairness is a fight for the soul of the neighborhood. Accountability is non-negotiable. Billions have been spent on homelessness, yet too much vanishes into inefficiency. Independent oversight is crucial to ensure every dollar delivers real impact. Smarter data tracking can target resources precisely, eliminating waste and driving results. Transparency builds trust and fuels progress. Prevention is the final piece. Emergency rent support, job training, and stronger safety nets can catch people before they fall into Skid Row's despair. Global models prove that proactive prevention can slash homelessness rates. This isn't about quick fixes. It's about a system that keeps people housed from the start. This blueprint housing, healing, equity, accountability, and prevention charts a course to restore Skid Row. It demands bold collaboration and unwavering resolve. Will we act to rewrite this community story, or let it remain a stain on our collective conscience? Witnessing the crisis of homelessness in America, particularly in Skid Row, stirs a mix of heartbreak and resolve. The stories of resilience, like that of Yolanda Waters, who rose from a tent to a new life through community support, prove that hope can triumph when compassion drives action. Yet, the grim truths, bodies abandoned in encampments, patients discarded by hospitals in nothing but gowns, or music used as a cruel deterrent, expose a society that too often shrugs off its most vulnerable. Gentrification-fueled sweeps and harsh policies like encampment bans aren't solutions. They're superficial fixes that gloss over human suffering to polish a city's image. Change demands collective effort, and it starts with us. Individuals can spark transformation by contributing to trusted organizations like the Union Rescue Mission, which provides shelter and hope, or volunteering with initiatives like Every Woman Housed, which empowers women to rebuild. Raising awareness through social media, using hashtags like Save Skid Row, amplifies these voices and pressures systems to act. Communities must stand firm against gentrification's tide, joining forces with groups like the Los Angeles Community Action Network to advocate for affordable housing and equitable growth that doesn't displace the marginalized. Policymakers hold the power to shift the narrative by investing in permanent supportive housing, scaling up mental health and addiction services, and scrapping punitive measures in favor of prevention programs that stop homelessness before it starts. Businesses, too, have a role backing efforts like the Skid Row Development Corporation to ensure development lifts everyone, not just the elite. Skid Row's crisis isn't just a local tragedy. It's a mirror reflecting our values as a society. Every person left on its streets is a call to rethink our priorities and act with urgency. We can't keep patching wounds with temporary fixes or hiding poverty behind glossy facades. Instead, let's reimagine Skid Row as a beacon of renewal, where every individual has a chance to thrive. What will it take to ignite this change? How can we ensure no one is left to languish in the shadows of a city that can do better? Skid Row stands as a haunting emblem of America's homelessness crisis, where roughly 4,400 souls face relentless hardship in a web of systemic breakdowns, soaring housing costs, untreated mental illnesses, and addiction, worsened by gentrification's relentless march and misguided policies, fuel a crisis that screams for immediate action. Initiatives like the Skid Row Action Plan and Inside Safe spark flickers of hope, moving some from tents to temporary shelters. Yet, their limited scope, coupled with setbacks like the 2023 collapse of the Skid Row Housing Trust, underscores a desperate need for bolder, more cohesive strategies. The numbers are stark. In 2023, Los Angeles County counted 75,518 homeless individuals, with Skid Row's 400 bearing the brunt of a system that often prioritizes optics over outcomes, LASA 2023. This isn't just a place, it's a moral challenge, demanding we confront the plight of the homeless in America with unwavering commitment. To forge a brighter path, we must act decisively. Expanding affordable housing through permanent supportive housing PSH programs paired with robust mental health and addiction services could break the cycle of despair. The success of individuals like Yolanda Waters, who transitioned from a Skid Row tent to a stable job, proves what's possible when resources align. LASA 2025. Combating gentrification is equally critical. Policies like the Tenant Anti-Harassment Ordinance must be enforced to protect Skid Row's vulnerable from displacement. Accountability is non-negotiable. The 2025 audit exposing mismanaged billions in homelessness funds calls for independent oversight to ensure every dollar counts. Los Angeles Times 2025. Prevention, too, is key. Emergency rent assistance and job training can stop the slide into homelessness before it begins. Skid Row is more than a neighborhood. It's a mirror reflecting our society's values. Each person sleeping on its streets is a reminder that we've fallen short, but also an opportunity to do better. The question is whether we'll rise to meet it. Programs like Every Woman Housed show that change is within reach, but half measures won't cut it. We need a unified push by the government, nonprofits, businesses, and everyday people working together to rebuild Skid Row as a place of resilience, not resignation. Imagine a future where its streets are lined with opportunity, not tents, where hope replaces despair. That future hinges on our willingness to act now, with compassion and courage, to ensure no one is left behind. Will we let Skid Row remain a scar on America's conscience, or will we seize this chance to create a legacy of justice and humanity?